Hi everybody, it's Keren here from tuppencecoloured.co.uk. Thank you very much for joining me today. This is what I've been making today. It's a little treat box. In fact, it's one of the Stampin' Up pizza boxes, mini pizza boxes, and it's got a belly band around it. But when you try to move that belly band, it doesn't go anywhere because it is firmly stuck down to the back of the box. So there is a trick to this box, and the trick is if you slide the label over to the left, then it unlocks the box and you can get at the goodies inside. Alright, now this mechanism is based on a box that Caroline Helvey, Crafty Caroline, made, I think it's about 3 years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago, and I thought it was super clever and I wanted to have a go at it myself. So this is my interpretation. Stay with me, I'll show you how I made it. Here are the supplies for my project today. I'm going to be using one of the mini pizza boxes. They come in white and I am going to colour mine in pumpkin pie by sponging all over it. I'm going to cut a strip of gorgeous grape card and I'm going to cut it the full width of the A4, but I'm going to cut it to 3¼ inches wide. I've got some scraps of pumpkin pie, Granny Apple Green and Whisper White. I'm going to be using the Buffalo Check stamp, which is in the Autumn Winter catalogue. I love this. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I'm going to be using Sentiment from Treat Time. The inks that I'm going to be stamping with and sponging with are Pumpkin Pie, Grey Granite and Tuxedo Black Memento. And I'm going to be die cutting with the layering ovals. Also going to be adding a little bit of bling, and I'm going to colour my rhinestones, my basic jewels, with alcohol markers, my Stampin' Blends. I'm also going to need a 1-inch circle punch, which I haven't got here, and the usual things like adhesive and dimensionals, things like that. So those are the things that I'm going to be using today. So my first step is going to be, where is it? Here. I'm going to take my pizza box and my pumpkin pie ink and my Stampin' Sponges, and I am going to sponge all over this in the pumpkin pie. So I'm going to go away and do that. See you in a minute. I'm using my stamper artist for this because this is a big, heavy, old stamp, and I want to make sure that everything lines up correctly. But of course you could use you could use a clear block if you preferred. Now the first thing I've done to prepare my stamper artist is I've got a piece of grid paper. I've cut a 7-inch square and I'm holding it down with 2 magnets. I normally only use one, but this is a sizable piece of paper. So I have my Buffalo Check stamp and I'm trying to line up the edge of the stamp, the rubber bit here, with the squares on my grid paper, and I think I'll come in one. So I'm just trying to make sure that everything is sort of sitting at a right angle. And I'm taking a little bit of time over it because once you've made that stamped impression, you've made it, and it's there, and you know you can't change it. So I'm going to pick that up onto the plate of the stamper artist, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a test stamp onto my piece of grid paper. So I have my Memento Tuxedo Black, and I'm inking up the stamp very well. This does 2 things. It's going to help me make my registration image, and also it'll sort of warm up my stamp, because sometimes stamps take more than one inking before they stamp properly. Right, so I'm pressing firmly down on that because this is a big stamp. Okay, and I'm also going to be looking for areas where it hasn't stamped properly. And yeah, that's not too bad. As you can see, there are some kind of faded bits there. I think maybe my memento needs a bit of recharging, so I shall re-ink that later. But for the purposes of this, because it's going to be a Halloweeny treat box, then I'd be happy to live with that. But I can see I need to put a little bit more effort here and a little bit more effort there. And it is a sort of almost rustic feel to the stamp. Okay, so onto the back of my treat box I've put, and I don't even know if you can see them, I put little tiny bits of snail to try and keep the box in place. So I want to make sure that I'm lined up properly with my registration. Now the reason why I put my snail where I did was to try and keep it out of the way of anything that I might put in the box later. But that is proving a little bit tricky for me. Okay, we'll live with it. I was hoping it would hold more firmly than that, but it is what it is. So here goes. Computer making a noise there, I don't know why. Just going to make sure I ink up that central part really well. Oh, and I almost forgot. Almost forgot. I'm going to mask off the back part of the box. Alright, because I don't want to get the ink onto there just yet. So just a couple of post-it notes. I don't know what we did before there were post-it notes, I really don't. Okay, so lots and lots and lots and lots of ink, lots of light tapping. Here we go, and press down. Now the stamp, as you can see, is smaller than the box. These bits are going to be tucked inside, so I'm not really going to worry about them. I did think about stamping with my stamp in the other orientation so that it was kind of that way around, so that it was broadways on, and that would have covered it. But it was giving me problems with matching up at the end, so I decided that I was going to go this way. So it's not a mistake. This was a proper decision. Okay, let's have a look how that's come out. Yeah, that definitely needs more ink, so let's go again. And I'm okay with a rustic look, but that is a bit too rustic. Do you know what? I'm gonna call that okay, because a lot of this is going to be covered anyway. So let me pop that down. Right, okay, so now I'm going to do the other side of the box, and again this time I have my snail on the on this part here. See, I'm trying to talk and stamp and do everything at the same time, and it's never going to end well. I don't know why I think that that is a good idea. Okay. So, same thing again, lining it up with the stamped image, covering up the bit I've already done with my posties. This is going to be the bottom, so not so bothered about that. This is the bit that's going to show, so I'm focusing my efforts right there. Let's have a look. And I'm okay with that. It's fairly rustic. I've got some patches here that because of these little sticky outy bits are not perfect, but you know what, that's going to be the bottom of the box, so I'm not going to stress about it anymore. I'm going to call that done. I cut my gorgeous grape card to 3 1/4 inches wide, and I've got the full length of the piece of A4 here, and I'm going to begin by scoring on the long side with the narrow end of the tool, at 3 5/8, and then I'm going to score my next mark at 4 3/4. And I'm just going to check my notes to see where I'm making my next mark, which is going to be at 8 3/8. So that's 1 2 3/8, and then that final score on this side is going to be at 9 1/4. I'm going to turn my card, and on the short side I'm going to score at 5/8 of an inch. I'm going to whiz that round, and I'm going to score again at 5/8 of an inch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to burnish my score lines very well, so I get a nice crisp fold. Before I move on, I just want to show you how I've kind of recovered this crease here, because it was kind of bending where I didn't want it to. So I've taken my my bone folder, and as far as I can I've sort of ironed out the score mark, and on the inside I've just stuck that that piece of card that I cut out from there, just so that it doesn't kind of bend where I don't want it to. Yours, of course, is going to be perfect, because you're not going to make the stupid mistake that I just made. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of trimming away of card that I don't want. So I'm just cutting little skinny triangles out of these places, and I'm just folding my card so that I don't have to do more cutting than I absolutely have to. And it took me years to figure out that this was a good thing to do. I can't believe I didn't think of it before, because for years I was quite happily going snip 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 on one side and then going snip 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 on the other side, and I could have just folded it in half and got pretty much the same result. Okay, so I'm just going to take little slivers off here and here, and here and here. And you might be wondering why I cut my card oversized, so that I was going to need to fold it in the first place, when I could have just cut it, you know, an inch and a bit smaller. And the answer is because I'm not very good at keeping punches straight and keeping things where they should be. I tend to wobble around a bit, and then things get into the wrong place, and then they don't look very good. So by cutting the card to 3 1/4 inches, that is the right measurement for me to be able to come in with my punch and push it all the way in, and for it to be halfway from the other side. All right, because if I'm going to do it to one, I'm going to do it to the other. Let me put a bit more adhesive on there, because it's drying up. Right. And you know, if you don't want to be doing that, well, that's getting in my way now, so I'm just going to snip that up the way. If you don't want to be doing that, then by all means cut your card a bit narrower. If you're, you know, if you're confident that you can measure where it needs to be, by all means go for it. But there is another reason as well, because doing it this way does give the belly band a kind of really nice finished appearance. And I'm beginning to think that I should have put the adhesive on one side at a time, because it's drying up too quickly. I didn't think it was that warm here today, but apparently it's warm enough for my adhesive to go off quickly. So yeah, okay. So I'm going to give that a few minutes for the adhesive to dry. Now I use a liquid adhesive because that's my go-to adhesive. If you prefer to use tape or something like, I don't think I would use fast fuse. If you still, I wouldn't, sorry, I wouldn't use snail. If you've got some fast fuse lying around, that might work well for you as well. But whatever is your adhesive of choice, you just use it, all right? So I'm going to put that on one side for the adhesive to dry before I move on to the next stage. Now I'm going to stick this piece to the underside of the box. And I'm sticking it down, centering it as best I can. I'm sticking it down so that my short flap is to the right, because that is the way I want it to open. So the slider will go that way, and then you'll open that. Right, so I want that to be well stuck, so I'm going to give that plenty of time for the adhesive mechanism. I've punched 4 1-inch circles out of Gorgeous Grape, and I've marked the centre of them, and I've stacked 2 dimensionals onto the centre of the mechanism. And now I'm going to push that one in place as far over to the right hand side as I possibly can, and then this one is going to come on top like that, and then that one is going to sit on top. So when my slider is over there, my box is locked. If I slide it over to here, I've mounted up this sentiment, "It's a real treat being friends with you," onto my clear ink block, and I'm inking it up with my Tuxedo Black Memento, and I'm just going to stamp this down onto my Whisper White. Now I picked this sentiment because I don't actually have any of the Halloween stamps from the new catalogue just yet, and I wanted this to be a kind of trick-or-treaty kind of a box. So the trick is that it's locked and you have to figure out how to open it, and the treat will be inside, and it will also be this message. Okay, and that's stamped very, very nicely. So now I'm going to take my layering ovals dies, and I'm going to kind of position that into my framelet. Let's have a couple of them. And then while I'm over at the Big Shot, I'm also going to cut a piece of pumpkin pie with, let me see, do I want that one or do I want the next one down? That one. Right, so that one is going to be pumpkin pie, I think, and that one is going to be Granny Apple Green, I think, or am I going to do it the other way round? Decisions. I'll go over to the Big Shot, and when I come back I'll show you what I decided. I'm back, and I did go with the scalloped in the Granny Apple Green and the smooth oval in the pumpkin pie. So they're going to fit together like that in just a minute. Just going to do a little bit more work on them before I put them together. This is pumpkin pie, and this is another stamp from the same set, and I'm going to stamp off and stamp on. So I'm getting a kind of a little slightly more subtle background to my Whisper White. And I was looking at these after I'd finished them, and I was kind of thinking, do you know what, those are a bit too bright, and this is a bit too bright. So I've gone and got my grey granite ink and my sponge, and I'm just going to just kind of sponge the edges a little bit, just to make them a little bit more grungy and a little bit more Halloween-y, a little bit more spooky. because when I kind of contrasted them against the stamping on the box, they were a bit too clean, and that is also a bit too clean, but I'm going to sort that out in a minute. Just the same way. Right, so I'm going to open this, and I'm going to sponge these edges as well. I'm not going to worry about the bottom because that's the bottom. And if I'd thought about this a bit better, I probably would have done it before I put the box together. But this is me. I am prone to changes of design direction. Alright, so I'm a little bit happier with the way that is looking, and now I'm going to start layering things up. So first of all, I'm going to make sure that that is pushed all the way over to the right, and I'm going to put my liquid adhesive, and I'm going to make sure that I pop this on nice and even. Okay. Alright, now these are also going to go together. And of course, the beauty of liquid adhesive, as you've heard me say on more than one occasion, is that it is forgiving and it gives you a little bit of wiggle time. Now, I've got a couple of dimensionals to go onto the back of the oval, and I'm making sure that I've got this the right way up, because it's not unknown for me to get things upside down and back to front and the wrong side in. Okay. And that will still open. And slide that up. And so there is my sneaky, tricky box. I've decided to add a little bit of bling to this, and what I've done is I've taken my Stampin' blends and I've coloured some of my basic rhinestones, dark pumpkin pie and dark old olive. And if you're wondering why I haven't used Granny Apple Green, it's because I don't have that yet. Okay, and I've just did this just a few seconds ago, and already the alcohol inks are dried. So I've done two of the pumpkin pie. I want that one to go there, and I'm using the spaces where there are little dots to kind of guide me around where I would like these to be. Okay, so just bring that one in just a tiny little bit. There we go. That'll do. And one more over here. Okay. And there is the finished box, and thank you very, very much for staying with me right the way through to the end. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If so, don't forget to click like and to subscribe to my channel, because I'll be posting more videos very, very soon. But for now, once again, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again soon.